Hello everyone, today I will be making a response video to my ex-doctor, Greg Doucette. I used to be a fan of Greg's. I'm not really so much of a fan of his anymore, but that's neither here nor there. I wanna be responding to his video, wanna be giving my take on it. And yeah, but before I go on, if this is something that interests you and if you wanna see more content like this, let me know in the comment section. If not, do not worry, the regular lifting videos will be coming back, but I'm taking a deload week at the time, so yeah, there's nothing really eventful going on. But yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. And by the way, I will be putting a link to Greg's video in the description box down below in case you want to check it out and see that I'm not misrepresenting him or see that I'm not taking him out of context or anything. I'm doing that because even though I don't really like the idea of giving Greg a whole lot of traffic, I think that it's about fairness here, and that if I'm gonna be criticizing him, I should be giving you, the viewer, the opportunity to see for yourself whether or not any of my criticisms are valid. So for that reason alone, the link to the original video is gonna be in the description box. I also won't be showing the entire video. I will be showing the clips that I find that are worth responding to. And yeah, hopefully I don't get a DMCA strike or something like that. But anyway, let's get to it.
You sound like this guy? Eat more. You are in the scenario where you're too lean, you might be anorexic, you might have body dysmorphia, you might just not be eating enough. You're trying to live up to society's expectations to be shredded too shredded for your own good. I coach tons of people like this. They want to have full six-pack, ripped, shredded. They want to be Gymshark athletes. Pressure to look good is strong. It's too strong. And you're not eating enough. And you're trying to main-gain because Coach Greg said to main-gain, but you didn't listen to the entire video. You didn't watch and understand what he explained. I explained if you're too lean, eat more.
Okay, so I just want to make it clear. I actually agree with Greg here. I think he's absolutely right that there are way too many people who are trying to keep a physique that it's simply not meant to be. Like, they're trying to keep like 5, 6, 7% body fat year round just because they're seeing like this famous model in a magazine that is just able to keep it effortlessly, and they don't realize that there is a lot of it that goes behind the scenes, and they are just putting themselves up to standards that they just can't keep. I agree this is a real problem. And I agree that the solution here is obviously to eat more, as he said. This doesn't really have to do anything about main-gaining versus bulking and cutting, at least not directly. This is more to do with the concept of, I guess, what you could consider to be reverse dieting, so to speak. So getting from feeling like shit to a manageable body fat percentage. So now let's start talking about the stuff that you will actually do during an off season when your goal is to either build muscle or even build strength, to be honest. The stuff that you will actually be doing during the off season, not just the part that is more analogous to like reverse dieting. But I think he's right here, just to make that clear.
He eats more, he increases his body fat until he feels good, then he main gains. Did you think Chris Bumstead continually bulked up and got fatter for 9 straight months after the Olympia? No. Competitors, bodybuilders, bikini athletes, after the show's over, they eat more. Their body fats go up. Then once they get at a comfortable level that's healthy, they gain that percent body fat while slowly adding muscle.
He brings up Chris Bumstead, and he starts talking about how Chris Bumstead is main gaining during the off season after he reverse diets from a show. For one, Chris is not nutty, and second, he's in classic physique. He has a weight cap. He can't really afford to get too far from his weight cap because then he's gonna not be able to compete, so to speak. He needs to keep himself within the weight limits of the competition for classic physique, which means that he, in a sense, has to almost limit the amount of muscle that he's putting to the parts that are actually relevant and that are actually lacking in his physique. He is not trying to put as much muscle as possible, for once, because he's already at the top of the weight cap. And second, he is on anabolics. He can maintain 9 to 10% body fat year round without much problem and still build muscle, because he is not relying on his own production of testosterone in order to help him maintain his hormonal profile. He is at least on HRT for most of the year. This is not really the case with most natties. Most natties are not able to make significant progress while maintaining 10% body fat. And yes, I know that Greg goes on to say that, he doesn't even think 15% is maintainable for everyone. But even if we ignore that, the two other points still stand. Chris Bumstead is not trying to put on as much mass as possible. He's only trying to get the mass or the muscle to go in the places that he needs to bring up, since he's already towards the top of his weight class. Whereas most natties who are just starting out, they do have a lot of mass to put, and they can put it naturally, but they don't really benefit that much from maingaining at this rate, at least not indefinitely. Plus, I can mention lots of competitors that do use a bulking and cutting approach rather than a maingaining approach. Just to name a few, Fuad Aviat, he has talked about why he bulks. Jake Cutler also used to bulk back in the day. He didn't just maingain at 9% body fat. Yeah, okay, Jake Cutler may have taken it a bit too far, but you get the point. This isn't like the practice that every single competitor does. Some of them do it. Some of them prefer a different approach. Another example is Mike Israetel. He actually goes on lean bulks. And something else to consider is that when you are on exogenous hormones, that in itself helps you recover. PEDs help you recover. So if you are not as reliant on your food intake to recover and on your nutrition, because you have the hormones to help you a little bit, it is not crazy to assume that you could get away with stuff that you may not be able to get away with otherwise. If you still have the hormones to help you recover, you could potentially be able to maintain a leaner physique because you don't have to rely as much on your food intake to help you recover.
So of course, if you notice more energy when you up your calories by 200, it's because you were not eating enough in the first place.
Okay, this is true, but he's using it in a different context. He's using it more in a reverse dieting context than in a lean bulking context. Yes, if you had 200 calories and you were feeling like crap and you start feeling better, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that your caloric intake should be higher. However, once you are at a healthy body fat percentage, even if you no longer feel hungry all the time, it is possible that you are still not getting the best benefits when it comes to a recovery standpoint from maintaining the physique. You could be feeling fine the entire day, but when it comes down to it, your progress is really slow, you are plateauing really often, yet you still feel fine. Do we consider this to be someone who is feeling good and just not eating enough? Because that's what I would consider to be in this case. Or do we say, well, you're still feeling fine, progress will come? Greg will probably tell you the latter. I will tell you the former. If your progress is significantly slower or significantly slower than what it should be, even if you do feel great in the rest of the day, it's probably a sign that you may consider adding more calories and see if you start feeling better and see if you can actually make progress faster. I mean, within reason, but it makes sense. Even if you're able to maintain, say, 12% body fat, can we really say that you're going to make progress just as fast as if you were, say, in a continuous surplus, say, slowly increasing that body fat, say, 12, month 2, 13, month 3, 14, month 4, 15? Can we really say that that's going to be slower than just maintaining 12 within those 5 months? No, we cannot, because if it's costing your training, which is a good surrogate of your strength levels and your hypertrophy levels, then I think that that's something that is worth looking into. It's not just about how you feel during the day, but it's also about how is your training keeping up? How is your training showing your progress? Is it even showing your progress? Have you been stuck on a plateau for the last 6 months? This is stuff that is worth looking into. It's not just about where you feel like crap. Sometimes your training performance can also be important, and it's not always 100% correlative with how you feel outside of the gym. I can tell you that. I have been lean, I have been 13% body fat before. When I try to maintain between 12 and 13% body fat, my gym performance sucked. It wasn't really increasing that fast. Like seriously, my bench, it was probably sticking. Honestly, I don't even think I hit. During 6 months, I added like 40 pounds. As a novice whose starting bench was like 105, I got it to like 145, but still, come on, what the hell is that? Why was that? Because I was staying too lean, and it felt fine outside of the gym, but my performance was still being handicapped. And I think that that's something that is also worth looking into. It's not so much about whether or not you feel good outside of the gym, but also, are your workouts reflecting that you are making progress, or are you just hitting a plateau or just making super slow progress? This is something else that you should consider here when we're talking about whether or not you should be adding extra calories.
I'm all for body acceptance, but I want to accept that your body should be healthy.
I think this is a good message from Greg. I already responded to the part that was before this, but basically he was just talking about how people were trying to maintain too lean of a physique for their own good, which, yeah, I agree that that's a real problem. Let's move on to the rest of this conversation.
So, maintain at a weight you feel good at. If you don't feel good, it automatically means you're not eating enough.
And again, also look at how your training is going, especially as a natural athlete. Nutrition is going to be a key part here. You want to make sure that you are eating enough to fuel your workouts, to recover from your workouts. It's not just about how you feel outside of the gym. It's also about whether or not you are still seeing progress within the gym. And if not, then you know that nutrition is something that is worth addressing.
Point. Stop bulking and cutting. It's not healthy. You want to bulk up and then do a mini cut. I hear you. I read the comments. Oh, bulk up and then do a mini cut. That sounds amazing. And I'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Honestly, I would love if that was the case. I would love if maingaining was the optimal way of building muscle. Seriously. Like, I'm not saying this just to, like, use reverse psychology or anything, but, like, if I could take that factor just completely out of the equation, if I wouldn't have to worry about whether or not my training's being handicapped by the amount of food that I'm eating, if I absolutely didn't have to worry about that at all, and I just knew that if I was maintaining a physique, I'm eating enough and I'm making progress optimally, that would be amazing. That will be a trade that I will be willing to make. But that is just not the case. Nutrition is a factor, and it's an important factor, especially as a natural athlete whose recovery is partially dependent on the caloric intake that is coming in. That's why there are some of us who can maintain a physique and still have really slow progress. I just mentioned how my bench only went up by 40 pounds from a starting point of 105 pounds when I tried to maintain 12 to 13% body fat. But another example is the guy from Revival Fitness. He talked about how past 3 years, his bench, he wasn't even at 225. After close to 3 years of training, his bench was not even at 225. Why? Because he maintained. He only worried about maintaining a given physique and not about whether or not the performance was going up. And he didn't make the connection between calories and his performance going up. And I think that again, this is something important and worth looking into. It's not just about the physique that you have. It's not about how you feel outside of the gym. It's also about how your nutrition and how your caloric intake is affecting the progress that you can make within the gym.
You're like, no. We want to hear that. We wish we could hear that we could just gain and gain muscle all year. You can.
Again, you can, but progress is significantly slower. At least for a lot of people. I mean, to be fair, if you are someone who has still plenty of newbie gains to make, then for like the first 3 to maybe 5 months, depending on your starting point in terms of body fat, you can rely pretty decently on maintaining. If you are someone who has taken a long break off and you're just coming back, so you have muscle memory, you can get quite a lot of progress done while maintaining. And if you're new to anabolics, then yeah, you probably don't need to, assuming that it's a small cycle and nothing like super hardcore or nothing like super high in terms of dosages or compounds. Yeah, you can probably get away with maintaining and see optimal results. But for the rest of us, not really.
You know what you rather hear? You rather hear, I go bulk up and then do a mini cut. When you hear that, it sounds like, I'll go bulk up for 3 months, mini cut 2-3 weeks.
Greg, I think you're being disconnected. No, I absolutely will rather just not have to do mini cuts ever and just be able to maintain a given weight and see optimal results when it comes to my training. But that is just not how it works. I would rather not have to go through seeing some of my lifts go down during a mini cut and then have to rebuild them during the first weeks that you're back on the lean bulk. I would rather not have to do that, but in the long term, that's a more effective strategy. Well, more like in the medium term, but still, it's a more effective strategy in the big picture. And even if I wanted to hear that, who cares? The fact is, bulking and cutting cycles, especially in people that are no longer as responsive to training because they're past their newbie gains or their muscle memory, it is the best way of making progress. It is the most optimal way of making progress compared to maintaining.
Who doesn't want that? You don't think I want that? 12 weeks, I get to eat more, and then I just do this quick little mini cut, little 2-3 weeker. So I can eat whatever I want for 12 weeks and then do a little mini cut.
If you are doing that, you are not lean bulking the right way. It's not about eating as much as you want. It's about being in a controlled caloric surplus. We are talking 200 to 300, in some cases maybe up to 500 at the very most, but usually more like 200 to 300 calories. This doesn't result in you eating as much as you can. This results in you maybe having an extra snack or increasing the portion sizes a little bit. Otherwise, you are not talking about lean bulking versus cutting, you are just talking about dirty bulking.
No! If you bulk for 12 weeks, you're gonna have to cut for 12 weeks or more!
If you bulk like a madman, then sure. But then you're not really doing a lean bulk. You are doing just a dirty bulk. Again, a lean bulk is a controlled caloric surplus. You are taking it slow. We're talking like 0.5 of a pound per week. During the mini cut, you can expect to be losing 1.5 pounds per week. Because again, you're doing it very rapidly. So we're talking about, those 12 weeks. We're talking about you losing it in 4 to 5 weeks. You're losing the extra fat in about 4 to 5 weeks. We're not talking about doing 12 weeks of cutting from 12 weeks of bulking. If you are doing so, again, you are bulking too fast.
It's not a mini cut. It's a cut. It's a bulking cut.
Yes, but that is not what we are talking about here. We are not talking about bulking and cutting in a 1-to-1 ratio. We are talking about lean bulking and mini cutting. During a lean bulk, you're going to be in a small caloric surplus, but you're going to be steadily gaining weight. But we're talking like 0.5 pound per week or so. During the mini cut, you're gonna be losing weight relatively quickly. Depending on your body weight, that could be 1 pound per week, it could be 1.5 pounds per week, it could be 2 pounds per week. But it's gonna be relatively quickly. So the end result is not gonna be a 1-to-1 ratio. The end result is gonna be more like 12 weeks of bulking compared to around 4 to maybe 5 weeks of cutting. This is significantly more productive than just maintaining and having a slow rate of progress the entire time, as opposed to just having a rapid rate of progress and then just slowing down for a little bit while you cut and then continuing to go on a rapid rate of progress later. This is why bulking and cutting is optimal. And no, it doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 ratio, as you put it. That's kind of disingenuous, Greg.
If you're doing a mini cut, you didn't bulk.
No, you did bulk. You were just smart enough to stop the bulk before it got too far. And you were smart enough to do it at a controlled rate. I know this is shocking, Greg, but you don't have to cut and bulk in a 1-to-1 ratio. I know, mind-blowing.
It's like climbing Mount Everest. It's not easy. It's a challenge that you take on for yourself. Normal person shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be yo-yo dieting. Bodybuilders yo-yo diet. It's not healthy. Most abuse PDs, not healthy. Don't want you to do that.
Okay, I don't know if this is his intention behind this or if this is just how it's coming across, but he's making it seem as if people that are promoting bulking and cutting are saying that you should cut until you are like in bodybuilding condition and then you should bulk until you are like fat and out of shape. This is just a massive strawman if this is what he's trying to imply here. No, in your off season, when we say cutting, the mini cut, you should finish it around the lower part of your comfortable body fat range between the healthy body fat range. So in other words, you should cut it, say, 11, 12, maybe 10% body fat, maybe 13, like in that low side. And then the bulk, well, really it's up to you, but like ideally you will be cutting it short around, say, 16, 17, maybe 18% body fat, potentially 19. But you are still staying in the healthy body fat range during your bulks and cuts. You are not just getting insanely shredded and then insanely fat. That's not what the point of bulking and cutting is, and if that's how you're doing it, you're stupid. You're doing it wrong. You are shortcoming yourself.
Want you to have realistic expectations. Diet down to a point that you're comfortable. You feel good and healthy. Maybe it's 15%, whatever. Then you maintain. You maintain that for the rest of your life. No bulk, no cut, no mini bulk, mini cut. Just maintain. Main gain. Eat at a level that allows you to have the same body fat percent. Slowly add muscle.
Okay, but why? Why? So if I am comfortable between, say, 12% body fat and 18% body fat, why should I stay at, say, 12 to 13% body fat year round when I could be making faster progress if I allow myself to slowly getting fat? And I cut it, before it gets out of hand. So say you start at 12 and then after the months pass by, eventually you get to, say, 16% body fat, maybe 17, and then you call it a day and you go back to 12 and you repeat the process. Why? Why should we sacrifice the benefits of recovery that we're gonna get from being in a surplus just so we can maintain a physique year round? Even if it's a comfortable physique, why should we pass on the benefits that we can get from being in a caloric surplus? I just don't get it. Also, something I forgot to say previously, is there any actual evidence that yo-yo dieting is bad in the context of people who are A, doing it in a healthy body fat range, and B, who don't have a history of eating disorders? Because I'm not really aware of that. I'm not aware of that. I have seen plenty of doctors talk about it, but most of the information that comes from the area of yo-yo dieting being detrimental is for people who are at a, say, morbidly obese, who are trying different fat diets and are not able to ever lose the weight, but in that case it's more because they are just cementing themselves into that high body fat percentage. Or from a psychological perspective, on people who are maybe at a healthy body composition, but who have a history of eating disorders, and it's just completely stressing them and ruining their lives to be, worrying about their weight going up and down and up and down and up and down, and who are just suffering from eating disorders. So minus those two cases, where's the evidence that yo-yo dieting for healthy, both psychologically and physiological individuals within a healthy body fat percentage range is detrimental or is something that we shouldn't be doing?
And yeah, if you bulk up, you gain a little bit more muscle. But when you bulk, you then have to cut. And if you're cutting, you're not gaining as much muscle now, are you?
This is true. But again, if you're doing it properly, you're not going to be cutting and bulking in a 1-to-1 ratio. It is entirely possible for you to lose fat significantly faster than you can gain muscle, than you can bulk up. So 12 weeks of bulking can be undone with a 3 to 4 week mini cut. So you're painting kind of a strawman here, Greg. And think about it this way. After your first couple years, after Nui gains basically, let's say you can gain 5 pounds of muscle in an entire year. That comes to an average of 1 pound of muscle every 10 weeks. So if you think about it, for every pound of muscle that you don't get because you are maingaining, it's almost like you are wasting 10 weeks of your time. Whereas for every extra pound of fat that you gain during your bulk, it's really only taking you, like a week for you to burn it off? So if you just maingain during the entire year, and as a result you say only gain 3 pounds of muscle or 2 pounds of muscle, those extra 3 pounds, that's like 30 weeks of training just wasted. But if you actually bulked, and let's say you gain the 5 pounds of muscle with, say, 5 pounds of fat, those 5 pounds of fat are only, at most 5 weeks away of, being off your frame. From that perspective, it's still more efficient to bulk and cut.
Think about it. If bulking builds more muscle, cutting builds less muscle. So why not maingain? It's going to give you the same result, except in a healthier way.
Again, I'm not actually convinced that maingaining is healthier than lean bulking within a healthy body fat percentage range. I mean, you can maingain eating junk food and you can lean bulk eating just whole foods, so this isn't even an argument about food quality. We're just talking about the surplus here. Why will it be unhealthy if you are still keeping yourself within a healthy body fat percentage range? Seriously, I would love to see the research on this, because I haven't found anything.
You'll have the same amount of muscle at the end of your life as if you bulk and cut, but you'll be healthier. You won't have to feel good for just 2 months of the year. The rest of the time you're bulking, you feel good and happy all the time. It fluctuations in your body weight and body fat that lead to body dysmorphia. When you struggle to get down, then you bulk up, and you look at the reflection in the mirror, you see, I gained 10, 20 pounds. I don't like myself anymore. I have time to do a mini cut. So you feel bad about your body, then you diet, then you look good again, and you're like, this is great. Then you're like, it's time to do that bulk again. So you bulk up, then you look in the mirror, I'm not really happy with myself anymore.
So as I argued before, it is more efficient to bulk and cut compared to maingain. But if you're someone who suffers from body dysmorphia or body image issues, you need professional help, you need counseling, or at least you probably need them. And in that case, if it's stressing you, if it's just something you feel super horrible doing, then don't do it, okay? This isn't really me telling you that you should be forcing yourself to feel terrible just so you can get extra muscle. At the end of the day, it's the pros and cons that you're gonna have to weigh for yourself. Is it really worth it getting a little bit more muscle if it means that you're gonna feel like absolute crap? Or are you like me, where you just don't feel like absolute crap because you realize that people don't really care that much about your physique, where you are shredded or where you are bear mode, people are gonna have nice things and not so nice things to say about you. I don't know. That's something you're gonna have to ask for yourself. But I don't think that it's fair to paint this as an issue that just governs everyone. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if it's an issue for you, then take action properly. But if you care about building muscle optimally, and this isn't an issue for you, I will still recommend bulking and cutting in that case, if it's something that you can reasonably do.
Body dysmorphia, ever heard of it? How do you think it develops? Develops from bulking and cutting.
So you don't think that maingaining can lead to body dysmorphia? It absolutely can. Hell, I'm gonna argue that you can't even get body dysmorphia easier from maingaining as opposed to bulking and cutting. Because when you're bulking and cutting, you realize that your physique is in everything. You realize that there are more things to it, like your training performance, like how you feel on a day-to-day, like how active you can get. You realize that there is a whole lot of other things to focus on. But when you are maingaining, not really. When you're maingaining and you're just so fixed on having this physique, and the thing is, in previous videos, Greg has actually argued that, because body fat testing is inaccurate, you should just look at the mirror and use that as a reference point.
Look in the mirror, and if you're going up in weight, you're eating too much. If you're getting fatter, you're eating too much. If you're getting leaner, you need to eat more. You just constantly track yourself. Every week, you just look in the mirror. It's not something where you stare at yourself for an hour and critique every little detail. You just look, are you happy? If the reflection looking back to you is what you like, you keep going from there. If it's getting too fat, if it's getting too big, eat a bit less. Getting too small, eat a bit more. Maintain, it really is that simple.
But you are telling me that constantly just looking at yourself on the mirror, just worrying about whether or not you are at this body fat percentage, and just staying like that year round, you're gonna tell me that is not likely to develop body dysmorphia? Because I just don't see it. Hell, I see it even more likely to develop body dysmorphia compared to not getting attached to a given physique and understanding that changes of your body are part of making progress and are part of the big picture. If anything, I will say lean bulking kind of detaches you from that perfect physique and makes you realize that to make long-term progress, sometimes you're gonna have to be a little bit uncomfortable, and you're probably gonna have to be not as shredded as you would want to be, or not as shredded as you could be reasonably, but by doing so is unattaching you to that image of yourself. And I will say that is a good thing.
If you're overweight, obese, not happy with everything, slowly lose weight till you're healthy and happy, and then maingain.
So Greg basically rumbles and repeats the same points that I have already talked about here, just with different examples and on different people in the subreddit. And I'm not here to milk his video for views or watch time, so I'm not gonna respond to everything else because I feel like I already addressed it previously. If you feel like I was unfair to him, again, watch his video, watch my video, and let me know in the comment section. But there is something else that I want to comment here. I actually agree. If you are obese and you just finished losing a whole lot of weight, I don't think that a controlled caloric surplus is the best bet for you, because you probably want to make sure that you have settled at a healthy body fat percentage at a given point before you even consider doing this. So if you're, say, 40% body fat, you have been dieting for 6 months and you got down to 15% body fat, you shouldn't be trying to then bulk up to 20% just to gain more muscle. No, you should actually be staying at 15% body fat. And this is not because it's going to be optimal for gaining muscle, but from a psychological and physiological perspective, you're going to be better off if you actually settle at that body fat percentage, if you actually make that your new set point, and if you actually learn to maintain yourself at a leaner physique, well, leaner compared to what you were doing before, compared to that 40% body fat. So you settle there, you let that be your set point, and then afterwards, if it's something that you can do, if it doesn't cause you stress, and if you have the willpower to control it, and if you can still manage it, then you can start implementing lean bulking and mini cutting. So yeah, I partially agree here. If you have lost a tremendous amount of weight, do not start cutting and bulking. Your best bet is probably to main gain for a little bit. Again, not because it's optimal, but because you want to lower your set point. You don't want to feel like you are coming out of a bodybuilding show when you are barely at a healthy body fat percentage, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I actually kind of agree with him here. And I think that's about it. Again, I have made every point that I have wanted to make. I don't think there is much that I want to add. He repeats himself quite a bit, so...
But you're going to listen to a 20-year-old in the subreddit over Coach Greg with a master's in kinesiology.
I will let that up to you. Look at the videos, see who is making sense, and if you have a rebuttal, I'm happy to make a follow-up video later on. Bye bye everyone.